Well, friends, this week we are in the midst of Holy Week. Tomorrow night we will gather for our Maundy Thursday service and remember the night of Jesus' last meal with his disciples and his arrest in the garden. And then we wait. We keep vigil, if you will, until dawn breaks on Easter morning. Over the last 8 months now, we have read together through the Gospel of Luke, all the way through even these stories of Easter and Jesus in Jerusalem, of Holy Week, of Easter itself, all the way even to the stories of Jesus appearing to his two disciples on the road to Emmaus, and then to the whole group of disciples who are gathered together, and Jesus appears to them in the last episode of Luke as Jesus ascending into heaven. So the story's over, right? Well, not quite. Not by a long shot, actually, both literally and figuratively. The author of Luke actually began that gospel with the words, "Since many have undertaken to set down an orderly account of the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed on to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the word, so I too decided, after investigating everything carefully from the very first, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the truth concerning the things about which you have been instructed." But now, in today's reading, the book of Acts begins with, "In that first book, Theophilus, I wrote about all that Jesus did and taught from the beginning until the day when he was taken up to heaven." Yes, you should have guessed it. The same author wrote both books, but sort of as two volumes of the same story, because the story does not end at the end of the book about Jesus. The story of Jesus continues now in the life of his community, his disciples, the church, and that is the story of Acts. And we believe it is the story that continues to unfold in the world and in the church and among his disciples, us, today as well. That story is now our story. So, two other things I want to mention quickly about this first part of Acts. First is that I am sort of captivated by this follower of Jesus named Matthias. This is the only mention we have of him, and all we can tell from the passage is that apparently he had been following Jesus the whole time, for his whole ministry. This, from the very beginning at the baptism by John at the Jordan, all the way through, Matthias had seen it all, yet this is the first that we have heard of him. So up until now, he was not one of the people apparently taking a leadership role. He was not one of the ones sent out by Jesus 2 by 2 into the villages to preach and heal. He was not one of the ones apparently expected to teach or to pray for others or to do the healings. At least we don't hear about any of that. He was apparently just sort of a quiet, anonymous follower this whole time, just learning along the way. Don't you think that describes the great majority of people in the church? The catch is, Matthias couldn't stay that way forever. And today is the day that changes for him. I think it's funny that happened for him, not through a phone call from a nice lady on the nominating committee at the church. Would you be willing to do this kind of a thing? Or a polite question from the person in charge of the children asking for volunteers. Or someone asking for help with dinner on Thursday night. By the way, if you want to help out tomorrow night. I'm sure the ladies would love to have you on Maundy Thursday, helping to set up the meal. No, Acts says that Matthias was chosen by the casting of lots. That's great. It was literally a holy roll of the dice. But who can argue with that? That's the catch. There's no, I don't have time for that right now, or I've got other things going on in my life, or that's more than I want to take on this year. Nope, sorry. The dice say that you are the one. No more excuses. Your turn begins now. And then the other thing that I like to mention is how the speech of the apostles is understood by people from all over the known world. All sorts of people with all sorts of languages, all sorts of customs. I'm sure they were all dressed in different ways. They're all different people. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. As the message of the gospel would transcend the language and the customs of the Jewish people. And it would spread to all kinds of people in the gospel, or in the book of Acts and in the New Testament and the letters of Paul. We'll soon hear about Paul traveling to Athens and crafting the gospel message to the outlook of philosophers who would gather and discuss and debate things on the Areopagus there in Athens. And then he would go all the way to Rome eventually, where we should assume his message would change yet again to present the gospel in a way to which the Romans living in the imperial city of Rome could relate in a way probably very different from the way the gospel was presented back in the old city of Jerusalem. Same gospel, but different people and different perspectives on life, different needs, different ways of seeing things, and so it had to be worked out. That will not be without some conflicts, of course. In the church of the New Testament, as we read about them debating these differences between Jews and Gentiles, and how do we go about things? How do we navigate these differences, and how we present the gospel, and what is at the heart of the gospel versus what are just habits and traditions that we like to stick to. But we still face it in the church today, don't we? And the tension between we've always done it that way versus why aren't we able to attract new people to the church? Always a tension that we have oh so much fun navigating, don't we? But it's obviously nothing new. So I hope that this spurs some thoughts. Please see the questions for today that may get you thinking about some of these things. And I wish you, friends, an early and a very happy Easter. He is risen. He is risen indeed. Go in peace. Amen.